This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. If you could please have a seat, we're going to go ahead and get started. It is 10:30. Thank you. At this time, I'd just like to welcome everyone to our town hall meeting. And I'd like to introduce our panel for today. Down at the end here, we have, if you can just raise your hand, Captain Dave, our patrol supervisor. We have Thelma, our activities director. I'm going to skip this young lady for just a moment. Down at the end here, we have Amy, our compliance coordinator. Next to Amy, we have Dawn. Dawn is our accountant for the community. Next to Dawn, we have Brad, who is our DRC compliance coordinator. And next to me, I have Mike, who is our operations manager. I am Darlene Pedro, the general manager. And this young lady next to me is Stephanie, and she's our new receptionist. So Mike's going to say a little bit about Stephanie for you.
I take it this conference is now recorded. Hang tight with me one sec. It looks like I'm getting feedback on my laptop. Apologies. So Stephanie has been with us for, it's been a month now. And I know a lot of folks have seen Stephanie in our main office, have met Stephanie, and I just want to reiterate, Stephanie is a wonderful asset to this community. She's that smiling face at the front desk that can help you with pretty much any of your needs and point you in the right direction. And I think that we're going to do great things here with Stephanie. We're so happy to have her on with us here at Happy Trails. And we just have such an incredible staff. So we just want to give a welcome to Stephanie and hope that we carry a long life with Stephanie working here at Happy Trails with us. So thank you, Stephanie.
We do have a lot we want to go over with you today, and I know most of you are here, or a lot of you are here to hear the results from the Chuck Wagon survey. So bear with us because that's going to be down at the end of our meeting today. Right now, I'd like to read a little bit of. We've had some feedback on the roles and responsibilities of the general manager in HomeCo, so I'd kind of like to read a little bit of something for you about that, and then we'll go from there. HomeCo, as your management services company, is charged with assisting the board of directors' decision-making process by means of providing information gathering and fact-finding support, implementing the decisions of the board, and administering the services, programs, and operations of the community association within the policies and guidelines set by the board. A manager's authority is defined and limited by the governing documents which define the authority of the board to enter into a contract. Some governing documents require the board to retain professional management. The management agreement or contract and actions of the board which delegate specific authority and duties to the manager. The board is ultimately the decision maker for the community association. The manager is required to represent the best interest of the community and association. I just want to state that I feel that we as a management company are doing our best to represent the community. I've been here for a little over 6 months, and I feel that we have a great staff here, not only in our office, but also in patrol, our landscaping, our maintenance, and our housekeeping staff. And I am very proud of every single one of them. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Mike so he can give us a little update of some summer projects.
So as you may know, we have a lot of stuff going on this summer, and it's going to take some organization and communication with the residents of the resort. Number one project that we have going on is asphalt. We know that it's going to be extensive, but the outcome is going to be beautiful, and that's our goal. So we'll work together and making sure that we do a good job and ensure that they do a good job for our future of our asphalt. We are currently working with YSC Paving and Frank Civil Consulting throughout these projects. To give you a little rundown of what will be happening here in the resort, we'll be doing a full reconstruction to Package 8. We'll also be doing a full reconstruction to the villas. So pulling all the existing asphalt, new asphalt, and valley gutters. We'll also be doing a full reconstruction to the Cascade parking lot, which will include the small asphalt piece on the other side of Cascades for the pickleball courts. That'll be brand new asphalt as well. Town Center will have a crack seal and seal coat and partial reconstruction. The partial reconstruction of the Town Center will be back towards the backside of the chuck wagon and the pickleball courts on that side. Some of that area is just decomposed to the point where it needs reconstructed. The majority of the main parking lot will have a crack seal and a seal coat to that location. We're also going to be doing a crack seal and a seal coat to all of package 5 and a crack seal and a seal coat to all of the ranch. So it's going to be fairly extensive. They're going to start with their reconstruction areas first. That will be the first step. We had a meeting yesterday with the asphalt companies. So we had a little bit of a discussion in regards to our mapping and scheduling. We're going to get information out to the residents very, very soon here. I should have a map. I'm hoping. I would pray for the end of the day, but I'm not going to hold my tongue there. So if not by the end of this week, by early Monday, we'll get a map out to the residents, but we're going to start in package 8, furthest down by the dumpsters. That is the location that we'll begin with. We're looking May 15th that they're going to come in and start concrete valley gutters. It's not going to prevent access to that location, and they will be doing it in half phases so that there always will be access to parking and accessibility to the resort. With that being said, they will move on to the second portion of package 8, and that they'll begin with the concrete work and then proceed through milling and paving. While they're still paving and milling that location, they'll move on to the concrete work in the villas. The concrete work will take place first, and it is proceeded to start July 15th. I'm sorry, June 15th. My apologies. So we're looking at giving a little additional time. We wanted to start with the villas because we knew it was going to be our biggest challenge. But I want to be able to provide ample notification to all owners in that location so that we can make arrangements to get vehicles out and work on that. So with the time lapse that we've had with the asphalt company and everything that's kind of happened, we're going to start in package 8. So we have a little bit extra time. We're going to designate a location in Town Center for villa parking for some of the residents that aren't here so they can park their vehicle. It will be a roped off area that we will know for sure that those are the villa owners. And we will also be allowing some parking along the boulevard with cones and things like that for accessibility. When it comes down to milling that area, they're going to mill all of the villas, and then we're going to pave in half sections so that there's accessibility for homeowners. They can park in there, and then we can move each to the other side. We will arrange shuttles with the golf carts, with our staff and patrol. And accessibility, I will have my contact information on call for anyone that is needing assistance throughout this project, regardless of what time or day it is. I recall last season we were out on a Sunday trying to get an RV backed into Tumbleweed. It was a challenge, and we got the backhoe down there. We might have those hiccups. It's going to be a lot, but we'll get through it together, and it's going to be a beautiful outcome. After we do the villas, we'll proceed on with the reconstruction of not just the Town Center, but Cascades, and then they will proceed towards seal coating, crack sealing. That will be minimally invasive. We're talking 24 hours to stay off of it. They'll open one lane and have the other lane open, in the time being. They will perform all the traffic control for us, and we will have all the scheduling advanced for you folks. We'll post it on A-frame boards, just like we've done in the past, put it out on the street locations, and they'll provide signs in advance. Please stay tuned for blasts in regards to the asphalt, but we're moving forward there. Another project that we're looking at will be the reconstruction of the cool decking at NC2. What will be included with that cool decking will be a partial reconstruction of some of the concrete. We have some issues and some water concerns underneath some of those concrete pads where we've had some cracking. So they're going to be replacing approximately 600 square feet of concrete underneath the cool decking in a couple different locations, as well as the autofill to that pool. That's been a concern for a while that needed to be addressed, and that will be taken care of at that point in time. It will be closed for a little while. I don't have an exact date from Victory Pool and Spas right at the moment of when they're going to be started. They did acquire a city permit for it already, so I should have some information to the resort here very soon on that. Of course, we did approve at one of our last board meetings the installation of the new car wash. It has been ordered. We're looking at approximately a month and a half to 2 months for the shipping and it to be installed. So the company that's going to be installing it only needs a day and a half for installation. Should be a pretty quick installation and a whole new system. So we're looking forward to that as well. With that being said, we've got a couple other things that were hanging above us from BGM regarding roofs. I do have some meetings scheduled later this week regarding some consultants and what we're going to be doing and getting some numbers on some roofing. We didn't get any definitive numbers before really the end of the season, so we're trying to get something out there, and we'll be sure to communicate that with the residents as well. That will be a board discussion, I presume, in June. I'm hoping I have some definitive numbers from these roofing consultants, and we can talk about it at that point in time. We got a couple other little projects here and there that we're looking at, some concrete work, some trip hazards throughout the resort that we're working on, but we're making some serious strides in the right direction. So that sums up the majority of the major projects. We're going to stay busy with those. Please don't hesitate to communicate with us throughout those process. If you have concerns, issues, we need to get you in and out of here, we'll make it happen. We're going to get everyone taken care of here. So with that being said, I want to discuss some compliance. We have noticed there's been a lot of discussion, primarily on social media, in regards to compliance throughout the resort. And there's a lot that goes into this topic, and we just kind of want to, and of course we'll open this up to questions at the end of all of our discussion. But I kind of want to get a little bit of information out there in regards to compliance and how things are done. What I'm seeing on social media is a lot of concern about enforcement within the resort and private property. In regards to a tremendous amount of items. It could be unsightly appearance for trash, or it could be just weeds on the property and things that aren't being taken care of. There's a perception always within association management that there's not compliance happening, because if you don't achieve compliance on the property, it's hard to know exactly what's happening on the property and what the internals are showing. Amy's going to give us a little synopsis here shortly of what we have outstanding in the resort, what kind of compliance we're seeing, and what numbers we're looking at. But I want to open this discussion to any questions you may have regarding our governing documents and how enforcement is taking place, as well as our statutes, our state statutes that we have to abide by as an association. We have a certain responsibility to communicate and give an opportunity to these residents for non-compliance. State statute speaks to prior to monetary penalty being assessed on the property, we are required to provide notice to the property owner and an opportunity to be heard. So when we see these things on social media of why they're not being fined, in some occasions they are. They absolutely are. And in some occasions, there's been discussion regarding this, or there's been legal action that's been taken, or there's just a plethora of things throughout compliance that happens. So there's discussion on behalf of the resident to us, or a request that we may have to take action through the board of directors, which then we're waiting for a board meeting. That property will most likely remain in non-compliance until we take it for review to the board of directors. So that's a challenge, not only for compliance, but for the residents. So I ask that all residents please communicate with us. We're here to listen to you. Amy's here to work with everyone, not just if you received the violation, but if you notice violations. We know that we have a duty here in the resort to provide a high level of compliance to protect your asset, everyone. It affects your home, it affects the value of your home, and we know that's important. So we are continuing to work in that direction and improve our dynamic in compliance. I personally take the blame, of course. We haven't met the standards that I felt that we should have met in the past, and I was in that department. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge, but now we are staffed for that, and we are ready for that. And a lot of residents that have received notices probably aren't very pleased, but a lot of them that haven't aren't seeing the outcome of that. So we just want to express to you folks that we can't we can't legally explain what exactly is happening on a property. So when we hear notices of like what most commonly our response has to be action has been taken on the property. I live in an HOA. I get people parking in front of my home. It's obnoxious. Non-compliance down the street. I take pride in my home. And the last thing you want to hear is action has been taken. It sounds like we're blowing smoke, and I'm sorry. We can discuss what our policy is and what action we're permitted to take, but we can't disclose what their status is of noncompliance on a private property. With that being said, I also want to reiterate the fine policy within our governing documents. Our rules and regulations regulate that fine policy. Um, and when we assess a penalty to a private property, we cannot collect that dollar amount without permission from the property owner. So I can't take a fine out of your account on an assessment charge. So those fines would be outstanding if someone doesn't pay that fine. Or you get scenarios where the homeowner will pay that fine and then you continue compliance. It just depends if it's worth it to them in order for compliance to be achieved. You know, if they really would like that RV to be on the lot, even though they shouldn't, and they're going to pay that fine, we have to continue action until the point that either we need to address this with the board of directors and take this towards legal, or we achieve compliance. So a lot of the times we do see that, but we also have a fine policy and a collection policy. So at 120 days of non-payment of a monetary penalty, it goes to collections. At 90 days, a final notice of collection is sent to the property owner. It's a long time, I know, and it can be frustrating, but action is being taken, and we are doing everything we can to improve the resort for everyone on behalf of your assets. And I just can't stress enough, if you see something, you can say something. We're not afraid to have that conversation. We know it's a conversation that is had on a daily basis, and we're happy to work in that direction. We know that there's a plethora of things throughout our rules and regulations and our governing documents that probably haven't been enforced in the past, and we got a big job to do, but we're working in that direction. And I really appreciate you guys' help on that. I'll add one more thing to the compliance. Darlene brought a wonderful idea up, and I know it's something that has been done in the past in the association, but a lot of other properties will do something like a spring cleaning or something like that, which it gives the association the opportunity to communicate with the residents on behalf of large non-compliance issues. I'm looking at Bev here, and I'm sure that Bev's been very involved in this in the past years, but providing notice to the property owners in regards to major repaints to their houses or recreational vehicles that have probably sat there for 20 years that either need to go or need to be painted or need to have some attention to them. Those are large items, and we know that it's tough to smack somebody with that and say, you got 15 days to fix this. So our plan and our ambition is to set a number of items that we would like to address come fall, and start providing notice to those property owners and give an ample amount of time to make arrangements to have these things addressed. It's going to be a deep dive. There's going to be a lot of items. It's not going to be your day-to-day weeds or improper parking, but your big non-compliance items that haven't been addressed for some time. So we're going to be working on that over the summer to provide to the residents in the fall. And we'll do that annually. That will be we'll call it a little fall cleaning. So just really going through that with a fine tooth comb and giving them ample time to reach out to us, schedule with painters, get things situated. We understand that we don't have expectations for your house to be painted during the summer months when you're not here. We know you want to oversee that project. You know it's going to be a challenge working with vendors and things like that. So we don't want to be unreasonable in regards to compliance, but we have to make some strides forward. And I think that that would be a nice way to do so. Of course, the properties that aren't brought into compliance after that fall cleaning will be subject to penalties, and that will proceed. And I'm hoping that that's not the route we go. I'm hoping that we can work together and really help beautify some of these, non-compliance concerns. So we'll be working on that. More to come. You'll be hearing from myself, Amy, Brad, regarding these concerns, and we'll work with you. We're here to communicate with the residents and give you what you need. If you need a little extra time, we'll work with you. That's our goal. So more to come on that, but good news coming forward.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Maxfield. I am the compliance coordinator. I just want to give you a little rundown of what's been happening this year, compliance-wise on my end. So total violations that I have given out this year, are notices that have been sent, is about 287 in the year total. And I did a little comparison to last year of what the numbers looked like. And last year, from January through May, there was 311 violations or letters sent out. So I'm only about 24 letters off from about where we were last year. So I think our numbers are matching equally, and our goal is to, get everything in compliance. And so we might be expecting more letters, more notices, things like that coming. Um, April alone, I had 125 letters and notices go out to the residents, and in March I had 82. So the numbers are climbing, they are going up there. So uh, compliance is trying to be achieved. I just want to go over a few of the most common violations that I do see. Utility trailers being parked on the property, not hooked up. Improper parking is a huge one as well. Right now, at the time of the year, after the fruit trees have produced their fruit and flowered, they are now starting to become overgrown. So that is a big hit as well. I have a lot of unsightly appearances that I've noticed as well. I know a big one is the resting of awning posts, miscellaneous items being stored around the property, and of course the weeds. So we know with all the rain that has come this year, the weeds have been growing like crazy. So we've been trying to stay on top of it.
Well, thank you, Amy. uh, my name is Brad. I'm in the DRC office, and I mainly work with residents who want to do additions to make sure their plans follow the guidelines that we have set forth, as well as the rules and regulations and CCNRs, and then matching up with the city fire and residential codes. So that's mainly what I do, and wanted to give you a rundown. I don't get to make the decisions by myself. I do have a committee that I take it to on Tuesdays, and the committee is made up of a board member and 4 Happy Trails residents. So together we go through applications and, approve or deny, and then take action as needed. Roughly, this past, I usually average around 50 to 70 applications a month. This past March, I did 98, so it was quite a busy time as everyone was leaving out to fix everything. So it does get fairly busy, but I try to, reach out to residents and have an open communication with them at all times. I'm also working with contractors and vendors to make sure that they know the rules set forth in our guidelines and rules and regulations. I have a sheet for them to sign as they come in if they're new vendors, and making sure they're following rules. And again, if you guys have seen anything, where the door is always open, we're willing to hear and listen to any complaints or questions you have. And that's pretty much it for me.
Hi, I'm Dawn. I'm the accountant for Happy Trails. I'm just going to speak about a couple of two different things. Again, we work for the board, we work for you. We have quite a bit of money in 4 different banks. It is not HomeCo's responsibility to tell a community where to place that money. We can make recommendations, but ultimately it's up to the board. Our job that we take very seriously to make sure that everything is federally insured at the 250,000 level. And we will look at that monthly. We look at that daily. The other thing is regarding storage. It's not our responsibility also to set the fees or to set if it's a 6-month or an annual. The board decides that, and the last time they did that was in, I believe it was in 21, start of May 21, when the board decided to make it an annual storage fee. Again, we support that and we do whatever's necessary to make that happen. So we as HomeCo employees, we don't say this is what we want to do. We want to do what you want to do, and it's at the discretion of the board. So I just wanted to clarify all that. And we are here for you, and we're watching everything and giving you our absolute best.
Good morning. I'm Dave Nelson. I'm the patrol captain. I have 15 officers, so I wanted to make sure that you know that we're out here for you. I have 3 shifts. Our 15 officers has a supervisor on every shift. So if you have issues, you can always contact the guardhouse and talk to a supervisor. And if you need to talk to me, I'll accommodate you. I'll call you. I'll stop at your home or whatever. But sometimes you guys don't like to see me when I come. So let me know if you want that. All right. I know a lot of folks have been asking me about the cord that goes across the entrance and the exit of Happy Trails. That has nothing to do with us. That's the gate. That's the golf course. They have a power outage over in one of their buildings, so they're running a wire across. So that's nothing to do with us. If you have an issue with that cord, uh, you can contact the owner over at the golf course and speak to him. But that's the issue there. I know sometimes that covering across that wire goes out, and you contact me, and I'll get APS or someone out there to check that out. But I'm here to help you guys. So if you have questions, please ask me. Also, I'm putting extra patrols at night because I know a lot of folks are homes are you're vacant. So I want to make sure that your homes and everything is safe. If someone's here, I'll get that taken care of also for you. Okay, so I'm here to help you. Contact me, speak to me, say hello. I'm a pretty friendly guy. I don't bite, but please. All right, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Thelma, and I'm the activities coordinator here at Happy Trails, and I love my job, by the way. So, uh, anyway, I just want to let everybody know that activities is open during the summer from Monday through Friday from 9 to 1, except for holidays, and then there's 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks in July will be closed, but you can still email me or text me or whatever. So somebody will be able to answer your questions if you have questions concerning activities. Even though it's summer, I know that we kind of get complacent with following the guidelines as far as room reservations. So you have to make a room reservations, even if it's in the summer, to ensure that everybody gets their spot that they want and using the room they want. So it's really important that you'll come into activities. You can reserve it online, and we'll send you an email with your confirmation. But it's very important that that's done so that we don't have a lot of overlapping, like somebody just going in there and using NC1, but when we actually have a reservation for it with someone else. The other thing is when you're using our facilities, we do ask that you clean up after yourself. A lot of times the trash is not taken out, coffee pots need to be washed, all the food, any food that you take into the facility, please take it back out, including in the refrigerator. Those things, that way it's clean for the next group that comes in. Our summer movies are going to be starting on June the 6th. So almost every Tuesday we'll have movies. I'll have a schedule come out and they'll be posted out here in front of the PAC. Food trucks are going to be continuing throughout the summer as long as we support them. So if they see that they're not making any money or they're not getting supported enough, then they will pull one or both of them. So just like, tonight we have a food truck. So just make sure that if we support them, then they'll be here for us. The good news is that Activities is going to be opening up the watering hole on Wednesdays for lunch, beginning June the 7th from 11 to 1. And we will be selling hot dogs. That's the first little thing that we'll be doing. So you could have hot dogs, chips, and a drink. And we'll have the price out there and everything. But then once we get going, we may change it up and have hamburgers one Wednesday, or chicken salad, one croissants, something like that, so that we can give you guys another avenue to eat, even if our chuck wagon's not open and then you don't have to leave the resort. We're working on the 23-24 entertainment and the trips, and we should have them ready to pass out to our residents by the end of July. So I'm looking forward to our entertainment lineup, because I think it's going to be good if everything goes as planned. So we still have Happy Trails merchandise except for pickleball items, and it's still 20% off in activities. So just come in, look around, see if there's anything you need. And I do want y'all to know that Activities is here for our residents, and let us know how we can support you, because that's our goal.
Pat Gerber, are you here? Let's see here. Pat was going to give a little update for the desert rats. So can you give us a little bit update on that, what we're going to be doing in the summer?
Okay, so the Desert Rats is going to be having ice cream on, it's on Thursdays. So it'll be the first and the third Thursday of the month. They'll have ice cream social, and they'll have card bingo after that. And then the second and fourth Thursdays is going to be the potluck. And some of the potlucks will have entertainment. They may play other games or something like that. So and then we've got enrichment classes. We've got arts and crafts lined up. So it's going to be a really fun summer, I think, here for our Desert Rats, because I think that we deserve to have fun in the summer also.
Thank you. Okay, now what you've all been waiting for. I just want to let you know, Mike's going to read off the results of the survey. We as management have not made a decision and cannot make a decision on what's going to come next. That will be the board's decision, but we did promise you that we'd give you the results today. Once the board also has the results, they will determine what they're going to do, and I'm assuming, please correct me if I'm wrong, it will be discussed at the June meeting and how we're going to proceed. Okay, thank you.
All righty, so I'm going to go through each individual question and provide the numbers provided for votes on each individual item. So the first question was, what type of organizational structure do you prefer? We had 100% volunteer. We had 62 votes. Paid managers and cooks with volunteers, 388 votes. Independent HT club status, 23 votes. And a lease to an outside vendor was 64 votes. Second question, so of course the highest ranking was paid managers and cooks with volunteers. Second question was, should the chuck wagon be open seasonal or year round? 365 voted seasonal and 172 voted year round. So the highest vote went to seasonally. Third question was, what type of pricing do you feel is reasonable? We had 380 votes for less than outside restaurants and 158 for consistent with outside pricing. The fourth question, what type of dining experience do you prefer? 281 voted for cafeteria style, 214 voted for fast casual, like quick dining, fast food deal, and 43 voted for full service. What is your preference? So cafeteria style was the highest vote. What is your preference for allowing alcohol? 178 voted BYOB, bring your own beer. 125 voted beer and wine, and a full bar was 52. So highest vote went to BYOB. That's the consensus of this survey. We did have a handful that were duplicated, as we realized that this program on our website allowed for multiple survey results from the same property owner. So we did have to do some vetting there. We did confirm that that was consistent and correct. With that being said, we're going to open the door up to a plethora of discussion questions. Bear with us as we've put a lot of information out there. I do have a couple questions on the chat that I'm going to start with. We can get those out of the way here. Total? Hang tight. 507 votes were valid. What's that? I'm sorry? No, there was 507 valid votes that came through on that weren't duplicates or didn't have a name connected to them or something along those lines. So that's the outlook of this survey that was provided, and I will proceed with a couple questions here on the chats. So there was a question here regarding compliance, sending out a weekly report. And I think that if not weekly, monthly is a good idea. And we can absolutely make that happen. I think that it's time. It's time for a report of compliance of what's going on throughout the resort. And it's very, very simple to add that into our blast. We can make that a standard. Of course, that won't go into great detail, but it'll give you a general idea of what's happening throughout the resort and compliance standard. And that was from Will McNamee. I appreciate that input, and we will definitely proceed in that direction, starting right away. What is the process if someone elects to just pay fines and not correct the infraction? This action tells other residents that the infraction is allowed, and then others will do the same infraction. And that hits the nail on the head. It is a concern here in the resort, and I think that we would all agree, and the board would most likely agree, that the issue is the amount of the fine. If the fine is increased, there's less likelihood that they will proceed to just pay the fine and continue with the infraction. And I think that that's something, I know that it is something that we have looked at and will continue to look at in the revision of the rules and regulations. The board is working hard on taking care of those rules and regulations, getting those revised and getting those situated. That will be included in that. But you're right, at a $50 fine rate as your first monetary penalty, that may not, persuade someone to come into compliance. You might rather pay that $50 or that $100. The current policy for most non-compliance will speak to $50 for the first non-compliance after courtesy notice, of course, and $100 every month thereafter for continued non-compliance of that property. If you look at the potential of, a vehicle on a lot, if that's something that you really like or you really want, it might be worth paying $100 a month for it. So we have to achieve that one way or another, and I think that that's through our rules and regulations and governing documents. We have another question here. So the request is Barb Fugelberg just asked if we could maybe give a little input of our concerns and our issues that we see with compliance. There's a certain amount of properties here in the resort that we struggle with compliance on. Not all of them, but due to ownership, a misunderstanding of who's responsible for the property. If something happens and if residents pass away or they're in assisted living, Are the kids taking care of the property? Is the bank taking care of the property? What we've learned in most cases, if the bank takes the property, they're not caring for it. And we have to fight with them in order to get compliance on the property. In a lot of cases, what ends up happening in those scenarios is we perform self-help. We've got a couple properties here in the resort that have had continued action taken on them and continued self-help taken on to remove the weeds and clean up the property because it's just not being cared for. The trouble is trying to contact someone. You know, if someone has their, you know, they're saying assisted living, but someone's paying the assessments on this property and it's on auto pay and they're not to a point where they're way up in legal fees and things like that within the association. It's a challenge, you know, trying to get this into compliance. I'm not saying that that's the majority, but that is part of the struggle that we have. The next phase of concern we have is the seasonal status of the resort. It's always been a challenge. And coming from a compliance standpoint, professionally in this industry, that's where I started. I spent years doing compliance with Homeco prior to coming over to Happy Trails, and I was strictly just doing compliance. But I had never performed compliance on a seasonal resort, and it provides a tremendous challenge because in a lot of other associations, there's no hesitation in sending out these major compliance letters year round. But part of the backlash that we receive is that how can we expect residents to do things on their property when they're not here? So we try to make sure that we're doing our heavy communication for like this fall cleaning in the fall. However, the expectation in the resort is to maintain your property year round, regardless of you being here on your occupancy on the property. The ownership to the property is your responsibility. The maintenance to the property is your responsibility. And we will work with you, absolutely, but the expectation is that it will be maintained year round, regardless of the scenario. We have vendors, we have caretakers, we have handymen that will help you, work with you, and make sure that your property is cared for. But continued action will be taken throughout the summer months. We understand that we may need to work a little more, give you a little more time. You know, we can make notations, we can place a violation on monitored. So call us, communicate with us. That's the biggest thing. We're not just out here to fine you. We don't want to fine you. But we do want to achieve compliance. So communicate with us. Let us know what's going on. And then we have another question for Brad. Is there a time frame on finishing contract work? I've seen one in particular that was started 2 years ago and still unfinished.
Yes, there is a time frame. The permit I initially give is for 6 months, and determining on the situation, I know there's been emergencies for some folks, or getting somebody to actually show up to finish it has been another issue. So I'm working to clear out some of the vendors that are, lackluster in showing up to finish jobs. But yes, there is a time frame, and then there's an extension given that, the reasons are acceptable, i.e. a family emergency or.
If I may add on that, Brad is working very hard on trying to help regulate these contractors. I don't know if it's an Arizona thing, but we have a tremendous issue with contractors. Getting them to show up and do a job and finish the job is, I'm telling you, that's why I don't have hair anymore. So we're really enforcing our design guidelines. We came up in I believe it was 2020. The DRC committee worked really hard on providing some contractor regulations. Essentially, what these contractor regulations allow us to do is, even though they're working for you on private property, they have to follow Happy Trails governing documents. And part of that is completion time. We talk to so many residents that are just at their wits' end dealing with these contractors. They won't call them back. They say they're going to show up on Saturday, and we're hounding you for it. You're frustrated as well. So we've put in place a dynamic that will allow us to put a little bit of teeth behind the contractors. Unfortunately, our legal representative said at that time we couldn't fine a contractor because they're not a member of the association. But what we could do was suspend them from the resort. And in a lot of cases, that's going to make them put a little fire under them. They're here every day. This is their bread and butter. And I think that maybe they got a little complacent, and we need to just, get them turned around a little bit. So Brad is sending out notices in regards to completion dates, things like that. We do get the occasional hiccup here and there where, I know we had an awning contractor that was pretty much barred. They removed their license, and then we had a lot of residents that were trying to find another vendor to finish the half-finished project. So some of those went on for way too long. We didn't particularly hold the second contractor to the fire because it was kind of an unfair situation, but we're working hard to ensure that that doesn't continue to happen. And we nip that in the bud right away. So Brad is working really hard with the contractors. Now, I will reiterate, we don't get involved with your private agreements between parties. That is not our place. We cannot make those recommendations. We can't get involved if you paid them and now they haven't finished the job. I'm sorry. Our suggestion is absolutely hire a licensed insured contractor, 110%. Register of Contractor, Arizona Register of Contractors is here to help you as well to kind of, get these contractors moving. If there was a financial situation or a construction situation that they've maybe done damage to your property and they're not fixing, we can give you that information to go that direction. We cannot get involved in those personal matters. So with that being said, we will do everything we can to continue to try to keep that under control and improve that, especially through the summer months, because I know a lot of with the 98 projects he's got for March, that's going to be projects that residents aren't here, which makes sense. Most residents get them scheduled, but then the contractors get a little, I can do whatever I want because no one's watching them. We're going to be after them heavily. So communicate with us, communicate with Brad, let him know what's going on, and he'll do the same for you guys. We have a question regarding posting the results on Neighbor Network for the survey. Absolutely, will be posted on Neighbor Network. We'll have it posted by the end of the day tomorrow. How does the time length procedure work for a lot owner doing their own work?
Sorry, it's going to be within that same time frame of 6 months. Now that's anything on the outside of the home. That's really what our concern is. On the inside is more, the residence domain. So yeah, they still fall under, even if you're the owner of your lot, you're still fall under the 6-month rule. And then again, actions taken afterwards. And, and I do try to work with residents as if, emergencies or material costs are all a problem and we can figure out a date. I do try and, work with the residents with that, but yeah, it is a 6-month period initially.
With that being said, there's no more questions on chat and we'll open the door up. Please come up to the podium. We have a microphone here and we will answer your questions accordingly.
Hi, Donna 379. My question is there a way we can work on the palettes of the paint choices that are in Happy Trails and maybe get some updated colors, please?
So Donna, to speak to that, and I was involved in the DRC meeting, this last meeting, is that in I want to say it was 22, the DRC committee combined the two books that we had existing. We had one book through Sherwin-Williams and one book through, it's gone. Regardless, we had two different books from two different vendors, and we had a lot of different colors. I know that when I started here at Happy Trails, there was pinks and yellows and some greens and things like that that were a little bit more extreme. And when that happened in I want to say it was 21 or 22, we did a deep dive into the color palettes and we involved the community, involved the board. And that was the outcome of that, those 51 palettes that were provided in that Sherwin-Williams book. I understand that a lot of the concern is they're desert colors. Without a doubt, they're desert colors. We got a couple grays that kind of encroach into a little bit of a blue. Got a couple greens that are more in the olive category, but there's mainly beiges and browns and tans. Every beige and brown and tan you could possibly want is in that book. We understand that, it doesn't give a whole lot of opportunity, but the committee, I can't speak for the board and I don't want to speak for the committee, but my consensus of working with the committee during this process, that it would be important to maintain that and that consistency throughout the resort. We can bring it up to them. We did open, I will say, that the committee did open up a little bit of diversity in conjunction with the board of directors for door colors to have a little bit of a palette you guys could play around with. We got a couple red doors and blue doors that are contrasted with the home. And that was given a little opportunity, but it really was just to the door and didn't really go any further than that in discussion of colors. We've had a couple of hiccups in the villas where we've really gone through that with the last revision of the design guidelines, put a palette together for the villas because, you know, with opening that up a little bit more in the villas, we've heard a lot of input saying that we want some more conformity in the resort of color and how things are looking. So that was the feedback of what happened at that point in time in that color book. We can bring it to the DRC committee and talk to them about it and go from there, but they feel pretty strongly about keeping that book in line.
Okay, and then the other thing I have is, did you guys ever think of maybe getting, oh, I'm going to say the V word, volunteer team to help with compliance for the people that can't do it?
Yes, so actually the history shows that Pony Express was very involved in compliance in the past. And there's a catch with that. And the challenge is that you're all residents. And it's conflict to some extent because we don't want conflict between private properties. When you're rolling up to take a picture of someone's house regarding compliance and you feel that that property is not in compliance because it's unsightly or something along those lines, it was a concern. It was an issue at that point in time. However, Pony Express does provide us documentation of what they see throughout the resort, and they provide it to Amy on a regular basis in regards to what they're seeing out on the resort, so we can confirm that we're seeing it as well. We're not missing it. So
What I'm meaning is maybe getting a volunteer group that could help these people that can't get the weeds up because they're getting too old or they fall when they do it or
okay,
that kind of thing, something like that. I don't mean complaining about the neighbors. I mean helping the
Yeah,
neighbors
no,
and helping the
absolutely.
community do that.
Yeah, I think that there could absolutely be more discussion on what direction to go. I think that that's come across the table on a couple of occasions in my years here at Happy Trails, and I think that I'm not jumping to this conclusion. I think that the immediate reaction was always liability. Is it going to be a problem if we're going to private property and we're helping? But I think that, you know, is that really a problem? Is that really a concern if the neighbors are being neighborly? I mean, I think everyone's aware that if you go onto someone else's property and fall, there's some liability to that property owner. You know, it is what it is. I don't think there's residents here that are going to take advantage of that. That's not our community here. So I think that there could be something developed, and I think that that's a really good idea.
Chuck RV, lot 354. I'd like to go back to the Chuck Wagon. Are we going to try to open it up in October? Because some of us, you know, if we volunteer or go to that volunteer, need to know when we need to come back down or not come back, you know, or come back in November if it's going to go a different direction. I guess I'm just trying to schedule my time when things are happening, whatever direction it's going to go.
Again, we can't answer that. That would be a board decision on when and how we're going to proceed. We can't make that decision as management company. I'm assuming that because of the survey that we could be going along those routes, but I can't guarantee and I can't say yes or no at this point.
So if the board doesn't do anything, we're not going to have a Chuck Wagon. Is that what I'm hearing too?
Well, they're going to do something. I don't know what, in what direction they're going to go.
I'm sure the board would agree that, you know, the Chuck Wagon is here for the community. And I think that everyone has ambition to see the Chuck Wagon being utilized as a restaurant to some extent where everyone can enjoy. But yeah, it's tough. It's really tough to know exactly what the dates are going to be or how it's all going to pan out. But I'm sure that the board is looking forward to having a future in the Chuck Wagon of some extent.
I'm Joan Carlton, lot 1480. We've owned since 1999. Whatever the board or the residents decide to do on the chuck wagon, I sincerely hope that they will remember the hundreds of residents that use the back part of the chuck wagon for fun and games. When we were locked out this summer or this fall, spring, poor Thelma was running around like a chicken with her head cut off, trying to accommodate all of the people who play games in that section of the chuck wagon. So I know that's not your job, but that was my remark. So hopefully Thelma won't have to go through that again. So thank you.
I'm Pat Diamond, Lot 20, and I'd like to speak with regard to your paving and seal coating. Has any consideration been given to using this lighter seal coating that is reflective? It's sort of a light gray. I understand it would cost more, but also I've heard that it does drop the temperature a number of degrees. And the other benefit would be that horrible black stuff that you keep tracking into the house.
Right. Yeah, so I recall last year as I was somewhat involved in the asphalt project, and we really looked into that product, and we consulted with companies in regards to that product exactly, and other products as well. And I think that the consensus was this is a fairly new product, and there's not a tremendous amount of data that shows the consistency of that product. But we did use a different product last year than we have in previous years. We used the Master Seal. The Master Seal is certified. It's applied properly. It's an oil-based product, but it didn't provide. I don't think it had as much impact on as it did in previous years with the Master Seal, and how they applied it and whatnot was a lot better than we've had in previous years. Even the tracking of it into homes was fantastic, and things weren't as nearly as bad as it had been in the products we've used in the past. But we did look into that product, and I think that the concern was that you're not exactly sure the longevity of such product if there's not data that shows the longevity of such product. But we did look at our options, and they will be using a Master Seal product, which was the same product that was used on our streets to seal last year.
Thank you.
Lisa Day, 1317. First, I'd like to say thank you to all of you. You've got a thankless job. And thank you for letting me vent as often as I do. You've been very kind, and I appreciate your listening. Two questions for Mike and then one for Don. Sure. On the seal coating, it's so nice right now with not a lot of people here, but it's like bumper pool out there. And I know after seal coating, will there be better directional signs? Will the repainting be done? I think that that's a very important consideration for the safety of all. And my second question goes to the car wash. Has pricing been established yet? How much of an increase are we looking at in using the service with the added expense that's being incurred having the system redone?
Yes, so I'll start with the asphalt. Yeah, we're definitely looking at direction issues. The safety committee had worked really, really hard before the end of season to provide us with a deep list of areas that need to have painting addressed. Stop lines, directional lines, even throughout the town center. We're going to be addressing some crosswalks, some things like that we really haven't had, so that painting can be taken care of. The good news is that we have all the product and material and machines to do it in-house. Our employees from maintenance will be able to provide this stuff, but the majority of the reconstruction areas will be provided by the asphalt company. That's part of the estimate. So the other locations that aren't included in that estimate will be on us to provide the painting. But yeah, we know there's some concerns in package one. Down by the teardrop didn't get painting back in it when the last phase was done. So we have a lot of painting to do this summer, but absolutely 110%. Not only are we going to replace what was existing, but add more to that. It seems like the direction is, the painting on the asphalt is more productive than the sign. In conjunction with the sign, it's great. You know, at stop signs, things like that, you want to have the stop line as well. But some of the other areas, the slow and things like that, seems to be beneficial. The lines to divide the road seem to be beneficial, and not always, the sign doesn't always do us a whole lot of good. So even painting slow or the speed limit on there was discussed with the safety committee, and we have full ambition to do so.
And you're speaking to the town center area. I'm specifically, we know about the post office, but over by the dog park where you've got all the roads coming together and it's a blind spot coming in
Yes.
off of Roy Rogers.
Yes,
Okay, great.
absolutely. So there'll be a divider in that area as well as a crosswalk in that area, because there are quite a few blind spots when folks are exiting the pet park to come across the road. And with the vegetation there, it's challenging, you know, and I've been around that corner a couple times where, you know, if you're not paying good attention or reaching out, it's hard to see around that corner and 2 golf carts at the same time. So, or cars. So that's definitely a concern that we will absolutely being addressed this summer. So, and your second question, refresh me really
The
quick.
car wash pricing?
Car wash pricing. So we got some discussion to be had on this car wash, and I think that there could be some fluctuation. But right now, from what I understand, it's $2 for 17 minutes on that car wash. And we feel that this is a long time to have the system running. You know, if we do have any leaks or things like that, it's just a waste of water. But I don't think anyone has any ambition to gouge anyone regarding the car wash. You know, it made $4,000. It was this last year. That's, you know, we figure if we're going to get 2,000 car washes out of it a year, if anything, maybe we can bring down the time a little bit, and maybe even bring it down a quarter or two, and then see what we got to do with it. You know, we're going to have, if the usage needs to be longer, if the residents are needing it to be longer, I think from what I've seen, the 17 minutes probably came from recreational vehicles, washing your RVs. And you see less and less RVs being washed in that location, more just transportation vehicles, because we're not climbing on top of the RVs to scrub them. We're having vendors come in to scrub the RVs. So is that still pertaining to the residents? Is that 17 minutes still valid? Do we still need that? So I think we'll play with it. I think we can take it down to 10, you know, and see what 10 minutes does for us or 12 minutes does for us in that location. You know, we don't want to waste any water or material or anything like that that is not necessary to waste. So if it's just running while someone else is, you know, on their way. So there will be some adjustment to it, but it's not going to be a gouge.
My other question is for Don, and I may have misunderstood you, so maybe it's just a clarification. At the last board meeting, I believe Bart Vogelberg, as president, said that the money that is in our funds is not board appropriated, that HomeCo makes the decision on where those funds go, which banks they go to.
No.
She did say that at the last board meeting.
Well,
so could you clarify that for me?
Yes. So HomeCo, and I've been with HomeCo for 18 years and done various associations. They do have Alliance Association Bank because it is an association bank, and we have a great relationship with them. But we don't determine which banks that they should or want to go to. I will tell you, Alliance is very easy to do our auto debits, to do the lockbox, to transfer money. And Justin Scott, the owner of HomeCo, has a great relationship with them. He can call them at any time and say, hey, I need this, and it's done. With other banks, it's a little different. You still have a relationship, but not as strong. But we do not. I mean, if the board wanted to say, we want all of these in Wells Fargo, and they wanted that, then we would do that. That is their decision.
They being the board.
The board, correct.
Okay, so Alliance is one of 4 banks that we're using then, is that
Yes.
correct?
So we have Chase, Alliance, LPL Financial, and AmTrust, which is
And AmTrust.
NYCB.
Yes, okay,
Correct.
good. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Hi there, I'm Bev Youngren at 2371. First of all, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to let us as residents know what's going on. It's, you know, it's been a little haphazard in the past, but the efforts that you're making, I as a resident, now that I'm full-time, I truly appreciate it, and I want to thank you very much for that. Also, I want to thank Amy because I think she has a very difficult job, and we've talked about this with the compliance. And I want to just give the residents a little bit of a background. When we started the beautification committee, and I'll give you guys too, the very first thing we wanted to do was a cleanup day. And we thought that we could offer the residents one particular day where we could make a list of things that we could do. And those residents that wanted to take advantage of our volunteer services, people that had trucks and good knees and backs and stuff like that, only working on the outside. We presented this to the board and they turned us down flatly and said that would be an insult to our residents. Well, I was a little surprised about that because I've done this in my area that I was at before. I don't think it's an insult to the residents. I think the residents would really appreciate the opportunity if we came up with a list. They can come and say, I need help and this is what I need done. We were not going to go to a homeowner and say, your house looks really bad or that you need help. This was for the residents. So I'd like to see that. Off now? Oh. Okay, I'd like to see that project given some serious consideration, and I would be very happy to be part of that because I know that there are residents that physically can't do some of these things, and I know that there are volunteers, particularly with the pickleball club, who be happy to step up for that day of cleanup. And I'd like to maybe see one like at the beginning of the season and one at the end of the season. And if that's something that you and the board would agree to, I don't see any real expense in it, and I think it would really benefit the residents if we come up with the list and they say to us, come and help me at lot so-and-so. I don't see that we would be insulting anyone. So anyway, thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you. I think that piggybacks on what Donna Wisdom was talking about, having volunteers to go and help some of these
Exactly.
residents
That's
that
why I got up to
are not capable.
explain this.
Yes.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
maybe you two can get together and we can meet.
I would be happy to be part of that. You know me.
Hello, my name's Lori Weatherby, 249. And I know, Mike, you know what I'm going to ask you. The drainage issue on Trigger, you didn't mention that it was going to be accomplished this summer today, although you did mention it in an email to me. So I just wondered, did that fall away or what?
No, so it didn't fall away. We have 4 drainage locations that have been surveyed by Frank Civil Consulting. And we're waiting for them to give us a final understanding of what exactly we need to do. We know that trigger location is a concern. We know that there's an issue within the drainage of the villas, which will be in conjunction with the asphalt being put down. We don't want to go backwards here. We do have an issue over in package 6 on Palo Verde, I believe, and I'm bad with road names. I know the lot numbers, but not the road names. There's a drainage issue there with the culvert and another drainage issue over on Candy Cane Lane. There's a corner over there that was just recently done, but we've got some concrete issues holding some water. So those are the 4 locations. They were on site already to do a topographical survey and shoot that location. So we're just waiting on their final recommendations and numbers. And the plan and the goal would be to have the exact asphalt company do it while they're here. It would make sense. We have, and it's going to be more affordable. That's just the reality. We're going to have the machinery here. We're going to have the asphalt here, and it's going to be a minimal ordeal. But that side, I believe, is the south side of Trigger, is the concern all the way down. There's 3 or 4 different locations that are holding water. I won't go into the past, what happened and how it happened. It's not relevant at this point in time, but it has to be repaired. There's something will have to happen there. So it will be in conjunction. I just can't guarantee exactly what time and how it's all going to pan out. I presume that I will have the exact numbers for the board of directors on the June meeting.
Question is the cool decking on Town Center is equally as bad as it is in NC2. Are you going to be addressing that? I mean, it's just like crumbling everywhere.
So there's been a couple things where we have talked about that in regards to what's the next phase, and we're going to do. We know that the cool decking is in bad shape at Town Center as well, and it's going to need attention. And I think that it would behoove us to get those estimates and make sure that we had those numbers ready for the board of directors so that we can proceed in that direction. In the time being, I have got with maintenance to try to get some of that cleaned up. We can do some, minimal repairs because I think that what we're dealing with is just cracking and peeling up more the more that we don't do anything with it. So in some areas, cleaning that out and then getting some, caulking and sealing some of that right now to try to maintain it as much as we can at the moment, knowing that we're going to have to do the cool decking there. That's going to be the bigger dollar item. We got a lot of square footage of cool decking in that location, but I'm planning to bring that towards the BGM committee prior to the board of directors as soon as we can get some situated. I didn't want to have both pools down at the same time, and that's just the reality. Not even to speak about the numbers it's going to cost. We're $30,000 for the cool decking at NC2, at least doubling that at Town Center. So it's going to be a big project, and it's going to be the board's responsibility to figure out where those numbers are going to come from, of course, but we're working in that direction for sure. We know that's next.
Any other questions? Okay, if there will be no.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to bring it up, Captain? Okay. Oh. Sorry about that. Captain just reminded me there was a couple questions in regards to the camera systems and the work that has been taking place on the cameras. And we got good news. A while back, there was discussion on the infrastructure and the upgrades that were approved by the board of directors. They've taken place. The cameras have been upgraded. The cameras are functioning and better than they ever have before. You've seen Merritt was here about a week ago doing the installation and the completion of that project. Not only do we have better cameras that are going to allow us to have better view of exactly what's happening, not so distorted. It's all in HD now. We can see the recording back a year. We can check these things out. It's fantastic, but it gives us some opportunities down the road, not just with our current cameras, but the infrastructure of the system. See, Dave's pulling it up here. Here's our cameras that you can see throughout the resort. The only thing that we're currently lacking, and I have a meeting with Merritt tomorrow, is a couple cameras in locations we don't currently have cameras. We need to have a little better coverage of some of our designated locations. Now, this is just common areas. We're not talking, streets or things like that in private properties and those locations, but all common areas should have a camera for security purposes and to ensure that everyone is secure while they're here in the town center. So we do have a great infrastructure. Not only is it going to help with our security, but it's going to help with patrol staff. We look forward to bringing a lot of this electronical database to patrol so that it's easier for not only the residents to come through the resort and patrol to get you through the resort, and recording documentation, using potential. It will have the potential to attach to an iPad so that patrol has an iPad. They can do their thing, take a photo of your license plate and send you on through the resort. So we have some ambition in that direction of what this capability will be of this camera system. But right now it is functioning, it is working, and we will be continuing to proceed forward with improving that.
Hi, I'm Becca Paulson. I'm the treasurer here on the board of directors, and I wanted to clarify some information about our banking. At the last board meeting, I had mentioned that we were investing a lot of cash in various and sundry banks. Well, it all goes through Alliance Bank. We call Alliance and say, okay, we have X amount of dollars in reserve that we would like you to put in a CD. Now, the amount, at least in the reserve area, was more than $250,000. We have like $900,000. So what we tell Alliance, and what Alliance does, we only deal with Alliance, is they ensure that they put it in banks that don't go over a $250,000 limit. So for $900,000, you've got to go to 4 different banks. Our Happy Trails does not pick those banks. Alliance picks those banks. Alliance tells us we get X percent of interest if we invest it for 6 months or 12 months or whatever. That's what we get, but we don't pick the banks that money goes to. And I just wanted to clarify that. What Don said was correct. We deal with 4 banks, Alliance being by far the biggest and the most. But we are not in control of where Alliance puts those $250,000 increments. So I just want to make sure, I hope that's a little clearer. Thanks.
Art Gray, lot 1295. I'm curious if anybody's come up with a solution for the continued breakage of the movable arm on the Roy Rogers Gate.
No, but the arms at the Roy Rogers Gate are breakaway arms.
How about an armed guard?
An armed guard. I love it. I love it. We do have a question here on the chat. Might be a little bit of a touchy subject, but the cardboard recycle bin is full most the time. Is there a way to get a second place there? We have had conversation with Vista Paper. They're the company that handles all the cardboard and paper, and unfortunately, they're not able to provide us another dumpster, nor are they able to provide us additional services. They only pick up on Sundays, once a week. And unfortunately, they're unwilling to provide this service because they're not profiting on cardboard and paper at this point in time. Even Parks and Sons with some of our recyclables it's been a little bit more of a challenge. The reason we still have these maintained in the resort is because we've had this relationship and this agreement with them for such a long time. They were pretty straight up with us when we asked them about it. I said, if this was, you know, a new vendor or a new customer of yours, would you provide these services? Absolutely not. The recycling and wouldn't be here, and it wouldn't be anywhere else. It's not a service they even provide because it's not profitable. Unfortunately, we've gotten to a place where they end up spending more money trying to organize what's actually recyclables and what's not, that they just trash it all. I was having a conversation with another resident recently that I watched my trash truck. I live in El Mirage, and we still recycle. Same truck picked it up. I watched him. So clearly they're not recycling. They're just providing the service for us to make us feel good about it. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We should continue to recycle as we have these services provided to us. It's just a matter of we can't get any more than we currently have. That's what we're stuck with.
Joyce Freeman, lot 2358. Would you consider putting more lighting when you come into the entrance by Walgreens, especially at night? You can hardly see it, and maybe that's why people are ramming that arm or something. It is very dark. I like to go shopping, you know, to Walgreens or at night because it's pretty nice. You have less people, but then when you come in, it's hard to see the place.
Okay, we can absolutely look into it. Walgreens and Roy Rogers,
Yeah.
or just Walgreens?
The one on Roy Rogers seems to be pretty good, but the one on Walgreens does need more lighting.
We'll assess them all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Conrad Revenig, 1150. Pertaining to the cardboard recycling, I just had a request where about a year ago I received damage on my trailer going around this corner, so I wanted to question the placement of the recycle bin on the far left as you come in, right before the entrance to the aluminum and metals area. It sticks way out into the parking lot, and it's very hard for a long trailer to get around that corner and dump their things. So there is kind of an open spot back by the sign that we have sitting there. I don't know if that's possible or not, but just a rearrangement so that last one could be farther back so we could turn the corner easier with longer ones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we're going to close the meeting. I want to thank you all for coming. Marty, safe travels. Thank you all.